It's 1:30. I'd like to get the meeting of the Monday, April 16, 2018 meeting of the Traffic and Transportation Commission to order. Roll call, Commissioner Clare.
Present.
Commissioner Littlefield. Not here. Commissioner White. Not here. Commissioner Hale.
Here, sir.
Commissioner Schuline. Here. Commissioner Miller.
Here.
Commissioner George. Not here. And Commissioner Milner.
Here.
Okay, we have enough. We'll go now to approval of the minutes of the March 19th, 2018 meeting. Could I have a motion, please?
Motion to approve.
We have a motion to approve from Commissioner Hale. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Schuline. Any discussion? Let the record show, please, that Commissioner Littlefield is present. Okay, so we have do we have any talk on the minutes? Okay, we have a motion to approve the March 19, 2018 minutes from Commissioner Hale, seconded by Commissioner Schuline. Can I have your votes, please? Okay, item is approved. Item 3, report on licensed taxi and record service for the months January, February, March.
Afternoon, Commissioners. All right, this is our first quarterly report for the year. Not real busy right now, but we're about to get busy. Annual inspections coming up. So for driver's permits, taxis, we have 23 new, 44 renewed, 2 exempts, which means they were under an umbrella company, so they get 2 permits under the same company. 1 replacement. Vehicles passed was 21 vehicles and had 1 complaint. Limousines had 6 new drivers, 2 renewed. Complaints I had 1 investigation, 1 field inspection, 1 citation. Carriages had 1 new and 1 renewed on the driver's permits. Pedicabs, 5 new, 1 renewed, 1 replacement, and 3 new pedicab inspections passed. Shuttles had 8 new, 9 renewed drivers, and 1 vehicle passed and 1 complaint. Have any questions?
Does anybody have any questions?
Just want to give you an update. I've been the other part of the industry of medical transports. That's been a very gray matter situation. Got some clarification from the Oklahoma Corporate Commission that they have to have a Medicare Medicaid contract. So we got that clarification. Been going out and do some enforcement. I have 2 companies right now. I'm getting under our regulation, and I got a few more I'm trying to get under wraps right now. So been busy with that part.
Okay. Hold on one second. So we talked just a little bit last month about this quarterly report. What's your input about not having them come every quarter, just receive our normal monthly report? And if there was some reason that we needed him, we could let staff know and they could have him come. Do we need to take his time every month for this? So we're okay with changing the way we receive. Well, let me ask you: is that okay? You think that we receive your data, basically what you just told us, every month, and if there's something that's up, something we see that we need some, or see a trend, or you ever thought you had a trend or something you had to tell us, then we could just staff and have you added to the items.
Well, I don't mind coming up here and doing the quarterlies, and plus giving you information like the medical transport.
Right.
So I'm fine with that. You're not taking any time out of my day. This is part of my job.
Okay.
So I like to try to keep y'all updated on what I'm doing out there in the field and trying to get companies under regulation with the
Sure.
city. So that'd be up to your decision whether you.
Okay. Oh, good. So input from you guys.
If the officer's comfortable with it, I would recommend that we continue as is.
Okay, as is. Anybody stay as is? You guys, there's no want to go ahead and pull the quarterly talk, and that way we get to see him every quarter? Okay, then we'll do it. All right.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Very good.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, then we go to item 4, the consent docket. There's 3 items on there. Is there anybody here to speak against items 4A, B, or C? Okay, can we have any staff input about the consent docket?
We've got no further comments to offer.
Okay.
We're recommending approval on all the items.
Okay. Do we have a motion concerning item 4?
Motion to approve the consent docket.
Motion to approve from Commissioner Hale. Do we have a second? Second by Commissioner Schuline. Any discussion on the consent? Okay, we have a motion to approve item 4, A, B, and C from Commissioner Hale, seconded by Commissioner Schuline. Can I have your votes, please? Okay, item is approved. Okay, we go on now to item 5, 5A, Jonathan Hustle, PE, Path Engineering Design and Urbanism, to consider a request to establish a reserved parking space for the physically disabled on the west side of North Hudson Avenue from approximately 53 feet north to 75 feet north of the north curb line of Northwest 6th Street. Do we have anybody here to speak on this? Okay, sir. I have a name, address. You have 5 minutes, sir.
Sure, Jonathan Heisel, 1805 Council Bluff Drive. And I just wanted to say I'm representing the item, and if you have any questions, I'll be sitting right over there. Thank you.
All right, very good. Thank you. Anybody else want to speak on item 5A? Okay, staff?
Okay, you've got our comments before you. So as a part of the development that's going on at the corner of 6th and Hudson, the applicant is proposing reserved parking space for the physically disabled, and it'll be on the west side of Hudson within the limits of an existing 1-hour time-limited parking area. Currently, there are fewer than 25 spaces along the west side of the block on Hudson between Northwest 6th and 7th Streets. For a parking area having fewer than 25 spaces, the one space reserved for the physically disabled appears to meet the ratio established by the Americans with Disabilities Act accessibility guidelines. So since the proposed space is in conformance with the city's accessible parking requirements, staff can recommend approval of the request as submitted, and action on the item will be at the discretion of the commission.
Do we have a motion concerning 5A?
Mr. Chairman, I move the application be approved.
We have a motion from Commissioner Schuline to approve item 5A. Do we have a second?
Second.
A second by Commissioner Milner. Do we have any discussion? Okay, we have a motion to approve item 5A from Commissioner Schuline, seconded by Commissioner Milner. Can I have your votes, please? Okay, item is approved. We go on now to item 5B, Timothy W. Johnson, P.E., Johnson & Associates, Inc., to consider a request for a traffic signal at North Oklahoma Avenue and East Britton Road. Mr. Johnson, you have 5 minutes. Name, address, please.
Good afternoon, Tim Johnson, 1 East Sheridan Avenue, Suite 200, Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. I'm with Johnson Associates, representing the applicant. In this case is the American Fidelity Companies. As you probably are aware, they've taken over the former OPUBCO headquarters. They're at the southeast corner of Broadway and Britton. So this drive, as proposed, was actually started on a number of years ago, but they ran into some issues with utilities and some other items. So they set it aside, and then we got involved with some work around their campus, and they brought it back up and said, hey, can we bring this back to the surface? And we met with city staff. They strongly recommended adjusting Oklahoma Avenue to line up, which was part of the previous problems. And fortunately, we are also working with the many of the new medical developments to the north of Britton, which allowed us to get data. You can't see this very well, but so this is the new HPI hospital. There's a brand new McBride building, hospital and office building. There's another HPI building going here. Several new developments all in this area that are using Oklahoma and coming down to Britton, and then they have the choice of right or left. If you try to go to I-35, it's a real burden to go out at 5 o'clock. So that has come back up and brought this to light. We've prepared the plans, schematic plans, and we did do some traffic analysis of the increased traffic based on these users and the amount of square feet that they're proposing in their developments, and provided that to the staff. In addition, we've worked up a group of participants that are going to join in the payment of this. And we're also working with city staff as well, Public Works Department, about getting some participation from the city on the public-private partnership. So all that said, we believe that the signal will greatly improve the conditions at Oklahoma, and which is going to be as well the American Fidelity Group is going to take down part of the what used to be the printing building on the north. And that's going to come, this part of the building over here off the page is coming down in the next 30 days or so. And this is going to be predominantly redeveloped into commercial. And so this drive becomes very important to the rest of their development as well as the new users in this area. So getting a little bit ahead of the curve with this one, and hopefully I can answer any of your questions you have.
All right, thank you very much. Is there anybody else who wants to speak on 5B? All right, staff.
Okay. Just as a recap, the city uses a manual on uniform traffic control devices, 2009 edition with revisions 1 and 2, when considering requests for signalized control at an intersection. Based on the posted 45-mile-an-hour speed limit on East Britton Road, the applicant submitted a signal warrant review using reduced 70% traffic volume conditions. Based on the assumed future developments to the north, the applicant projects that with the realignment of the driveway on the south side of East Britton Road to match the alignment of North Oklahoma Avenue, the modified intersection will satisfy Warrant 1, which is the 8-hour traffic volume warrant, Warrant 2, which is a 4-hour traffic volume warrant, and Warrant 3, the peak hour warrant. In his request letter, Johnson Associates indicates that the project will be funded by a partnership with American Fidelity Insurance and several developments to the north on Britton Road. Should the Traffic and Transportation Commission approve the request for a traffic signal at this intersection, staff recommends that the approval be subject to the applicant and the parties he represents bearing the responsibility for all costs associated with the preparation of construction documents and with the concurrent construction of the requested traffic controls and roadway improvements. So action on this item is going to be at the discretion of the Commission, and should the Commission approve the request for a signal, staff recommends the approval be subject to the applicant and the parties he represents bearing the responsibilities for the costs associated with the construction documents and the construction of the project. I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Okay. Do we have a motion concerning item 5B?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make the motion to approve the request based on the staff's recommendation that the applicant fund responsibility for this improvement be upon the applicant.
Yes, sir.
Is that? I think that lining up the driveways, how many times have we talked about where we wish driveways would line up? Well, here's a case where obviously they've seen it, and how they're going to line it up. There's a lot of assumptions, but based on your assumptions and I couldn't find anything wrong with your traffic study, so therefore I'm recommending approval.
Do we have a second to 5B? Second. Okay, second by Commissioner Littlefield. Do we have any talk on item 5B? Sir, I just want to make sure that I understand and make sure I understand with staff also on the funding thing here. You're saying a possible public-private merger. If we approve it saying you're paying for the whole thing, does that mean you have to either come back to us to say that the city will pay some, or do you have to go to city council? I just want to make sure that we're clear on that.
I checked on that. That was my concern as well. And I'm told that the public-private partnership can still go forward, and it has to be approved by council. We understand that if council does not approve that, our client and other representatives will pay 100% of the signal.
Okay, so the motion will stand as is, which is with staff recommendation that your group pays for the whole cost.
Correct. If
you do decide with the public-private, it would have to go to city council because they would expend funds, and then you would negotiate portions of the payment.
That is correct. Thank you for clarifying that.
Right, and that's a correct understanding because the Commission does not have the authority to obligate construction dollars for projects like this. Anytime the Commission would approve like a request for a traffic signal, if it was just a citizen request for a traffic control signal in their area, the project or the signal would be approved through the Commission, but it would go on the city's unfunded projects list. Mm-hmm. In this particular case, Mr. Johnson's indicated that they're working on some sort of a private funding scenario for it, but they may expand and seek public assistance for it. But that would be something that would be done beyond the hearing of this meeting.
And as far as us, we're the ones that approve light, so the
Correct.
light would be approved once funding would be worked. Okay.
That's correct. You're separate.
Very good. No, just want to make sure that we all saying the same things. Any other talk on item 5B? Okay, we have a motion to approve item 5B to include staff recommendation from Commissioner Miller, second by Commissioner Littlefield. Can I have your votes, please? Okay, item is approved. Going to 5C, Timothy W. Johnson, P.E., Johnson & Associates, Inc., to consider a request for a traffic signal at the proposed intersection of North Rockwell Avenue and Northwest 143rd Street. And so you have up to 5 minutes.
Again, Tim Johnson here on behalf of the applicant. In this case, it's Paycom is the applicant. Anybody who's ever driven in this area in the morning or the evening understands the traffic issues on the Memorial Frontage Road. So Paycom has been working diligently to get easements to the east, to Rockwell, and they are set to close on the 30th of this month. So they're pretty excited about getting this done so they can relieve pressures on their own campus. So what we have before you today is the project in total is half a mile of street. A portion of that is private and a portion of it is public. And then the signal would be at the intersection at the Quarter Line and the Rockwell Avenue. The previous approved signal and constructed signal is down here. And this particular land is proposed to be commercial, and that particular property owner is beginning to move forward, and he will utilize that signal. Paycom is a closed campus. It's gated and has pretty high security. They also take several truck deliveries, so we've designed the road, the intersection, the turnarounds, all to take the truck traffic and try to take that load off of Memorial Road. In our initial design and submittal to the staff, we basically took 50% of the exiting traffic on the peak hour and assumed half would go north, half would go back the way they usually do, and came up with a design scenario that ultimately we believe will need 5 lanes, 2 left, 2 right, and 1 entry lane. Traffic coming into the complexes trickles in through the morning. They do have heavier periods, but it's not like at 5 o'clock. So we've been meeting with the staff, discussing the design of the signal, and they're going to work with us. We're going to work with them on implementation of how this goes, simply because it's not all that traffic's there yet. And Rockwell is only improved 4 lanes to here, and then it tapers back to 2, and then it's a 4-way stop at 150th Street. So we're hoping this catches on and additional improvements can be made north. So our application is for the signal to be approved to allow it to be constructed as part of the roadway plans. As I mentioned, staff's got the signal plans and they're working on them. Public Works is reviewing the street plans currently. I'll be happy to answer any further questions.
Thank you. Staff? Is there anybody else want to speak on 5C? All right, staff.
Okay, just like the previous case, we note that the city uses the manual and uniform traffic control devices when reviewing requests for signalization. Like the previous case, also due to the posted 45-mile-an-hour speed limit on Rockwell, the applicant submitted a signal warrant review using reduced 70% traffic volume conditions. So based on the projected traffic conditions, which are tied to the continued expansion of the Paycom facilities and their workforce, the applicant's planning level signal warrant analysis predicts that the proposed intersection of Rockwell Avenue and Northwest 143rd Street will meet the criteria for Warrant 3, which is a peak hour traffic volume warrant for the consideration of a traffic signal. At this time, the applicant does not indicate that any other signal warrants are anticipated to be satisfied at this time. Should the Traffic and Transportation Commission approve the request for a signal at this intersection, staff is recommending that the approval be subject to the applicant and the party he represents bearing the responsibility for all costs associated with the preparation of the construction documents and the concurrent construction of the requested traffic controls and roadway improvements. So action on this item will be at the discretion of the Commission. And should the Commission approve the request for a signal at the intersection, staff recommends the approval be subject to the applicant and the party they represent bearing responsibility for plans and construction. I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have on this application.
Okay, do we have a motion for 5C?
Motion to approve.
We have a motion to approve item 5C. Would staff recommendation, sir?
With staff recommendations. Thank
We
you.
have a motion to approve item 5C with staff recommendation from Commissioner Clare. Do we have a second? Second. Second by Commissioner Schuline. Any discussion on this item?
Mr. Johnson, you made a comment that I believe I heard that part of 143rd is private and part is public.
Correct?
What would be the range of that? I'm just curious.
Where this turnaround is, from Rockwell to that point, so it's about a quarter of a mile, that's public. And then there'll be some sort of overhead sign that says, "Welcome to Paycom," and then this becomes private. The reason we want to do that is sometimes we get stacking of trucks, and we didn't want any stacking on public streets, and that just takes the load, the bearing the load of that off of the shoulders of the management here. So, plus, by doing it this way, the church, which still owns this property, can take access on 143rd and allow them to use the ingress and egress. The other two developments over here all take access to the road. Sorry,
So the future development there on the south will not have access to that?
that's correct. It'll have access to Memorial and Rockwell.
How many acres is that? Is that all one parcel?
Yes, it is. So it's 160 less the corner, so it's probably around 130 acres.
Has there been any discussions with your client that would there be an opportunity in the future for a cross-access easement using that road?
Yes, they have started conversation about creating an exit here so that we would have a second point of ingress and egress, or mostly egress, because they're gated. They can't have private coming in, but this developer would love to have all their people come through his commercial development, and they're open to that suggestion.
I'm just thinking about access to the north, having that development access to the north, to have access to that signal out there as well.
Well, they have a signal here that's already there. Sorry, my coat likes this mic.
Well, that brings me to my question is, now that makes 1, 2, 3 signals in that little bit of space there, 4 counting the one north of it. And how far is it to the next, to Northwest 150th?
It's a half a mile.
So it's a mile from,
Memorial to 150 is a mile.
and there'll be 4 lights in that, counting the two in the middle there, and then the one on each side, one on the north, one on the south.
Correct?
Is that a concern from everybody? It is? Is that all going to be timed and tied in?
It certainly can be. At this point in time, the traffic signal at 139th Street has been built, but has never been utilized. It turns up on page 6 of your staff report. That was originally installed several years ago. It was a joint project between developer Oklahoma County and Oklahoma City, and that was at the time when it was anticipated that a Harkins Theater was going to be built on the northeast corner of that interchange area. Since then, there have been a few other developments that have been considered, but they have not progressed beyond the planning stage. So that signal has not been put in use yet. The signals to the south that flank the John Kilpatrick Turnpike on Memorial Road, that's pretty much a standard diamond setup that's been run. We've got a number of signals that are set up just like that along where the north-south arterials cross the Kilpatrick Turnpike. That, as far as the proximity of this proposed signal goes, actually the one on Northwest 143rd Street is more along the lines of where we'd typically prefer to see them go in, because they're at least separated by a half mile from the next adjacent traffic signals. The intersection to the north at 150th Street, that will be signalized at some point in time in the future when that intersection is improved. There aren't any imminent plans for that work. But no, as far as adding another signal, the study indicates that This signal is predominantly going to be used during the peak hour period when employees are leaving the Paycom facility, because that's when their big discharge occurs. So a signal that meets a peak hour warrant typically does not have that much influence on the arterial that it's attached to throughout the remainder of the day.
Okay. Anybody else, sir?
So do we see this light at 139th coming into play at any point in time soon, or is it just there?
I can tell you, I've worked for both developers on either side of Rockwell. There's some new development getting ready to start on the east side of Rockwell, but the original plan, or the latest plan, was a Walmart. Walmart has purchased the property, and they're making street improvements in there. One of the streets will line up with that signal. The west side, that developer's not that far along. He is looking at costs to develop and seeing when he's going to start, but I would anticipate he'd probably start before the end of the year.
Okay. Thank you.
So the 139th will become more of a regular daily traffic from both sides, east-west, once
Right.
everything is done. But the one up here on 143rd is more of a peak time.
Correct.
Okay. All right, and, yes,
Tim,
sir.
I have a question. What is to the south? What is that development there, to the south of 143rd? Is that an apartment?
That's a apartment project. I think it may be age limited. I'm not positive,
Okay.
but it's an
And
apartment project.
they won't have any access?
Their access is to Rockwell. No, they don't have the ability to put a drive in. They've got a pond and a giant retaining wall to the north,
Okay,
but it's public along their north line.
okay. But as of right now, there's no access.
Right.
They can't access
They-
143rd to utilize that light?
That's correct. They have two driveways on Rockwell.
Okay. I'm guessing one being right by the light you're proposing.
It's not that close. There's a good spacing.
But there's two of them?
I believe
Okay.
there's two, mid and south.
Okay.
But to answer your question, if the right-of-way for the public portion of Northwest 143rd Street abuts that property, they would be, that apartment complex could make plans to take direct access to it if they sought to. But as Mr. Johnson noticed, if they've got like retaining walls along that side, it'd probably come with a little bit of expense to do that. That would be their option.
You're welcome.
Okay. Anybody else want to talk about 5C? And there's no question on the funding. This is all just private.
The answer is the same as the last one, yeah. I mean, we understand we'll have to pay 100% of it.
Okay. All right. Okay. We have a motion to approve item 5C from Commissioner Clare to include staff recommendation, seconded by Commissioner Schuline. Can I have your votes, please? Okay. Item is approved.
Thank you.
Thank you. We go on now to item 6, comments from citizen. Anybody want to talk? Yes, sir. Please, come on up. So if I can have your name, address, and you have up to 5 minutes.
Appreciate it. Good morning, or good afternoon, gentlemen, ladies. My name is Jimmy Paris. I'm at 13500 Tuscany Drive in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. I represent Paris Limousines today, not anybody else, okay? I do handle some other affairs. At this time, we're working on trying to get Oklahoma City Will Rogers Airport permits, and we've been having a very difficult time with Oklahoma City Airport. One of the problems that we're having right now is we have a tag that basically says Paris. 31 years in this business, Paris Limousines. It wasn't too long ago we got ticketed because we had a Paris tag on there because we don't have an operational permit with the Oklahoma City Will Rogers Airport, even though we're licensed as a limousine company. When we received the letter, we started immediately to work on trying to get the permits. They kept saying, well, you're a cab company. We kept saying, no, we're a limo sedan company. Well, you got to do this and you got to do this. We can't do that. We can't label our cars on the outside because we're a black car service. We cannot put fares on there because we operate by the hour. We don't have a meter running. So now we are in a dilemma between Oklahoma City Airport, Oklahoma City Permanent ID Office. So now we're stuck. I just finished talking to the captain downstairs. How are we going to resolve this? I don't know what to do. I want to be able to do both and try to get along with everybody and try to make this thing work as best we can, because we're a vital service here in Oklahoma City. But right now, we're in a dilemma, is you have to have this and you have to have this. Okay, we do have all that. We're a permanent company. We have the $1 million license. We've been operating for 31 years. We're a highly respected company. And I just need to get this resolved somewhere between the Oklahoma City Airport and the permits and ID. We're stuck here not knowing what to do next. My girl Maddie, which is a school teacher at Choctaw High School, works for me. She goes, Jimmy, I've never seen anything like this. This is total chaos. Nobody knows what in the world they're doing. So all they want to do now is continue to give us tickets. I got lots of tickets here, because of this plate. Paris Limousines. Even though it's a continuous ride, we don't actually work the airport. We don't actually sit there and wait for customers. Ours is chartered under the federal rules of 1986, which basically says that a continuous ride is a continuous ride. That means if it starts in New York City, it's a continuous fare. It doesn't start on the ground transportation, which is basically the city of Oklahoma City in violation. And there's other issues they're violating right now. One's a privacy law. It's basically right here in the National Limousine Association. It's also under the federal laws about privacy. This is another issue we're going to be discussing next month, because they want to revoke my license to operate in Oklahoma City as a limousine service. For 31 years, I've been doing this. I've been going through some federal problems right now with the federal court systems, even though we won the judgment, multi-million-dollar judgment, because of the certification on our limousines. The federal judges will be in here the last week of April and the first week of May to go through all the details on this lawsuit that we had won. But one of the problems we're having right now is trying to get everything accomplished here with Oklahoma City Police Department. I don't want to take up too much of your time, but there's been 3 limousine companies in Oklahoma City have gone bankrupt. We basically pulled 21 of their drivers to come work for us. None of those companies had permitted drivers. So now we're in the process of getting everybody permitted. But a lot of these guys have also worked for Uber, which doesn't have a permitted. They don't have to go get an ID. They don't have to go get physicals. They don't have to go get a driving record check. They don't have to do anything. They don't have to do the OSBI. So now I've got 21 drivers who basically says, hey, Uber didn't require it, but the city of Oklahoma City is requiring it. But we're trying to convince them this is what you got to do to be a permitted company, permanent driver. So we're working on that. My problem is right now, we just need a little bit of time. I don't need to be ticketed. I don't like to say the word harass, but it's just very important right now just to help me out through all this. Either Traffic Commission involved the Oklahoma City Airport with the permit department so we can get this resolved. I'm a very easy person to get along with. Very easy person to get along with. Like I said, I've been doing this for 31 years. I didn't start yesterday. And some of the growth that you've seen in Oklahoma City, we've been involved in. I've told you that. We talked about it last time I was here. But I just need your help, if possible, through the captain, through Sergeant Bells. Just please, let's get this resolved and let's get this happening, because, I'm a very vital issue to the city. And, the Paris name is very well respected in the city. It's known throughout the whole city of Oklahoma City, even the state of Oklahoma. Just about everything you see that comes through Oklahoma City has the Paris name on it. And there's some great people that are also limousine companies here in Oklahoma City that do a great job, But at this time, if you can just help us through this, I'd really, really appreciate that.
Okay. There's a few things that I'm not clear of what you're saying. So if you could walk me through a few
Yes, sir.
points. Okay. Who's given the traffic write-ups? Who's kind of writing up the traffic citations? The Oklahoma City or the airport authority?
Well, nobody actually is. They take a picture of you, and then they come and see you at your office.
Right, but then so let me just ask. So
what they do is they take these pictures,
right,
and as you all know, has a Paris tag on it.
Sure.
They come in my office the other day, and they bring me some more tickets.
Okay, so it's the Oklahoma City Police Department that's writing the citation. They walk it into your office.
Yes.
Okay. What is the violation? When they give it to you, what's the violation?
One is basically no Will Rogers Airport permit, and one no sticker on one car. One of the cars was brand new.
Okay, so no Oklahoma City sticker
Right. On
for
one
a
of them.
permit, and then one time for not having a Will Rogers permit.
Right. I believe that's
Okay.
what the situation is.
Right, okay. Now, if I understand, taxis have to get a airport sticker. They have to be authorized by the airport to be weighed in for pickups in the weight line.
Because they're ground transportation.
Right. You never wait in the
No.
in the ready line.
We're not considered ground transportation.
Right.
We're
You
considered
would-
part of the FAA rule of
Right.
1986. We're a continuous ride.
Okay, right. So if a traveler sets up a black limo with you, you would park somewhere appropriately, and you would be there with your sign, and you pick up the passenger, you get in your car, and off you go.
Right.
That's how it kind of,
Yeah.
and that doesn't require a airport authority certification.
Curbside service is considered public transportation, is considered private in
Right.
terms of that. If you cross over to the other line, which is the traffic, the taxi line or the bus line or anything like that, that's considered ground transportation in the federal government's eyes.
Sure.
When you pick up somebody at curbside, you can pick up your daughter, your
Oh,
son.
yeah, right.
You know, that's part of the public thoroughfare.
Right.
You know, that we all pay for. So we don't actually sit there on the ground transportation and wait for a ride.
Right.
We don't even do the Uber things. These are all preset
Sure.
ahead of time.
Okay. And the airport authority, what are they telling you?
Well, again, we'd be tickled to death to work and get their permits. If now they've got us in a holding pattern,
But
we don't know what to do.
what was the last thing you heard from them?
They said that we have to have all these stickers all over these cars, and we have to have poster rates inside the vehicles.
Like a
and all-
taxi.
Like a cab.
To be able to get their public side, not public, ground transportation side tag.
Yeah.
To be able to be in the ready line, which you don't want any of that.
No, we're not interested in that.
So
part.
what
I
are
don't
you
mind
wanting
paying
to do
permits.
at-
Let me
what-
pay their permit, and I'll be fine.
So-
I don't have a problem with that.
I understand. So you're saying you're being written up all of a sudden here, because I'm
31
sure this
years, I've
hasn't-
never had a ticket in
Well, that's what
Oklahoma
I'm saying.
City.
So
And now
do
we're
you
going
know of
after-
anything that's changed in the last couple months that would now all of a sudden get these write-ups?
That's something Oklahoma City, Will Rogers Airports need to discuss with me.
Okay, no, that's fine.
I
just
don't.
wanna
I
make
have
sure
no
that
idea. I don't know what I've done
hear
to them
from
that,
you.
that has caused any issues here.
Okay.
You know, it's a sad situation. I don't know if you know this. What's going on? One of the judges, a federal judge right now, is filming a movie here in Oklahoma City. It's basically supposed to be filmed in North Dakota. It's filmed in El Reno, Oklahoma. The reason he filmed here is because, Jimmy, I was so impressed with the way you conducted your business here. He was also the federal judge that negotiated a deal between the state of Oklahoma and the Indian tribes on the waterway rights. He was impressed. He liked what was going on in Oklahoma City. He was one of the producers, and he funded this movie that's being filmed right now in El Reno, Oklahoma. That's incredible. You know, so we got some really good people coming in here to Oklahoma City, but they don't need to see any issues. And I'm glad they're not giving me a ticket right in front or harassing us. Now, I told Captain the other day, my wife got a ticket because she had a Paris tag on her car because her bumper touched a yellow handicapped when she was picking up my daughter and grandson. I paid $75 for that ticket. When the officer gave me the ticket, I said, "Sir, her bumper just barely touched the yellow line." "Well, you're in handicap parking." "But we just barely even touched it. We didn't park in it. She's just picking up my daughter and grandson." And I was the one that was helping her, and they gave her a ticket. I paid the ticket. I don't have a problem with that. If they decide that they need $75 because my wife barely touched the yellow line, I don't have a problem with that. I took care of it. But right now, I don't need an issue with Oklahoma City. I don't need an issue with the Oklahoma City Airport. I'm a legit businessman here trying to help the public.
So all you're asking from us right now is to be aware of it, one. And I guess all I would ask is that, Sergeant, would you be willing to talk to him afterwards and figure all this out and make it all kind of straight? And we just want to make sure that we kind of move on from this and work all as a team.
Yes, I'm here, and I've been talking to Jim Paris for 5 years now and stuff. Also have Dan Goodman here that's in charge of the airport that does the agreements.
right.
So he's here too, so afterwards we can talk to Mr. Paris after this.
Okay, so we have the 3 players right here
Yes, sir, we do.
that could make this happen. Hopefully, we can come up with something that'll work for everybody.
Chairman, I appreciate that, because that's all we're here for.
Right. And then if it doesn't, if for some reason we can't come to any agreement and you need our help, well, then you get with staff and then something would get put on here and then we can press on.
I appreciate
Is that,
that.
is that what you're looking for right now?
That's all I'm asking. If they can just meet with me and let's get
Staff, are we good?
a situation here, we can resolve it. Because you know what? Let's face it. It's very important to take care of people, you know, and that's what we're here for.
Yeah, and you and us, we just want people to do what's right.
Yes, sir.
And once we find out what is that answer, then we'll all do it.
Yes, sir.
Okay, very good.
I appreciate your time.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Sergeant. Thanks also. Okay, anybody else wanting to talk for item 6, comments from the citizens? Okay, we move on to item 7, reports from all the commissioners and everybody else. Let's start over there with Commissioner Clare.
Nothing to report?
Okay, Commissioner Littlefield.
All is good in Ward 2.
All right, we go on to Commissioner Hale.
Nothing to report, sir.
Commissioner Schuline. Commissioner Miller.
Same here, sir.
All right, Commissioner Milner.
No comment.
Okay. LT. Counselor. Staff.
You just have our monthly summary of parking restrictions and stop controls or yield controls in new neighborhoods presented, but we have nothing further to add this month.
Okay. One thing I need to talk about is we usually take a month off in the summer. I kind of recommend June. June would be a good one for me. I got some travel in that 3rd week of June. If everybody's okay and if staff's okay and we think that we can push items, you know, this is usually a slow time for us anyway. We could change our notice of our pending schedules and then just say we're not going to have a June meeting. Everybody okay with that? Okay, so staff, if you can. All right, thank you. Okay, is there any other business for the Traffic and Transportation Commission today? All right, we stand adjourned.